I want to take a few minutes of your time today and talk about the various refugee crises happening in our world today. Let's start with the difference between a refugee and a migrant. People often use these terms interchangeably, but they have very different meanings. A refugee is a person who is forced to leave their home due to war, famine, and other devastating reasons. For example, a refugee is a person who may be fleeing the Syrian war zone. A migrant, on the other hand, is someone who leaves their home voluntarily to seek better opportunities. Just imagine how hard it would be to pack very few belongings and flee your country in the middle of the night to escape a war zone. It is vital to keep that image in the back of your mind while we briefly discuss what is happening across the globe. For nearly a decade, there has been a bitter civil war ongoing in Syria, which has led to the deaths of hundreds of thousands of people, historical landmarks destroyed, hospitals, schools, and other homes completely wiped away. As a result, over 5.6 million Syrians have sought safety within Lebanon, Turkey, Jordan, and many other countries. Another 6.2 million people are displaced within Syria due to war and violence. 3.3 million of those refugees are now in Turkey. Unfortunately, this is not the only refugee crisis happening right now. The continent of Africa is enduring some of the worst displacement. According to Al Jazeera, over 2.4 million refugees left South Sudan, and many more from Somalia, Sudan, the DR Congo, and the Central Africa Republic. According to the UNHCR, or the UN Refugee Agency, there is one displaced person every 2 seconds. 2 seconds is not a long time frame. You can blink, and 2 seconds have gone by. There are currently 68.5 million people involuntarily displaced worldwide. Additionally, there are 40 million internally displaced people, and the numbers continue to rise daily. Sub-Saharan Africa currently hosts 26% of the world's refugee population, which translates to 6.6 million refugees. Other countries within Africa with the highest amount of refugees are Uganda, Sudan, Ethiopia, the DR Congo, and Kenya. I recently read an article in Time magazine written by activist and actress Angelina Jolie. She wrote, "Why then has the word refugee acquired such negative connotation in our time? Why are politicians being elected on promises to shut borders and turn back refugees?" Her writing hit home for me. I live in Central Florida, which is a primarily conservative area. It is not out of the ordinary to drive through a neighborhood and see countless Trump 2020 signs and flags on display. One of the slogans frequently chanted is "Build the Wall." This sentiment hurts so many people who dream of coming to our country. Our country was founded on being a place of freedom. Each day, the freedom concept changes. It once meant freedom for all who come here. After all, the founding fathers started our nation as a means of escape from Great Britain. Today, it seems as though those freedoms are only for us. We were once known as the melting pot, but the times certainly have changed. In today's world, people are seeking closed borders. It gives the idea that we no longer want to be a melting pot. I am amongst the many who disagree with this notion. We need to stand up and shout how each refugee deserves a chance at a new start. We need to start with our leadership. Next year is an election year. Pay attention to your local areas to see which seats are up for re-election and do your research. Do not vote blindly or simply within party lines. Be sure to read up on each candidate to accurately see whose views you align with the most. Vote with knowledge. Your vote is so incredibly powerful. Lastly, I encourage you to visit the UN Refugee Agency website. Their website allows you to research the many crises happening today. Through the site, you can donate to whatever cause you prefer. The money goes directly to funding refugee aid such as shelter, healthcare, ending sexual exploitation, protection, and education for refugees. Never forget how good you have it compared to others. Do not take for granted the freedoms you have. That knowledge is power. Use your power. Remember, whether a migrant, refugee, or another U.S. citizen, we are all human beings.